Hello everyone, welcome to 440 Gallery Arts Talk. Today we are talking about this beautiful show, Sacred Space, and it's curated by Ramona Candy, and we'll be talking to Jaime Patino-Calvo, Hiroko Ohno, and Melissa Kraft. And before we start, I do want to congratulate everyone in the show, all the artists, because the selections were very competitive, and it's a beautiful show, and I'm sure it was difficult to choose the people that are talking today, but I also want to thank you all for being here and making the time. So let's get started. Ramona, congratulations on putting together this fabulous show. I know everyone's curious about what goes into the selection process, but first I'd like to focus on the title, which is also the theme. And to give a little background, we asked Ramona to give us some ideas for themes that she would enjoy, and then our members vote on it. So we chose, by popular vote, Sacred Space. And Ramona, could you please tell us what sacred space means to you?
Well, sacred space means to me any place you feel safe, any place you feel comfortable, any place you feel joy, any place you feel embraced. And I think if you look at the work in the room, all of that comes through. There's embrace, there's joy, there's safety. When you're afraid, there's a place where you can feel that, okay, I'm good here, nobody's going to bother me. Also, I think in terms of where we are now as a country, everybody's looking for a sacred space. And that sacred space could be so many places. It could be in community. It could be not coming out of your house. I hope it's not, but it could be not coming out of your house. It could be turning on the television and just watching something that has nothing to do with you know who and you know what. So for me, I'm always looking for a sacred space, even in my own life. Choosing this work, I had to go into a sacred space because there was so much to choose from. So I had to kind of do the Wosa thing, and that's my way of getting into sacred space. So that's sacred space means to me.
Thank you. I've been told there were quite a few entries for the show. How many was it? Someone say 900? So
300 artists, right? And 900 total entries.
okay, 300 artists, 900 total entries, narrowed down to.
Congratulations.
Exactly. And that's what I was saying. It's a feat to get in the show. And I think we have 25 now. And I wonder what went into making your selection.
Well, as I said, I went into my own sacred space, which is my own gallery, my own studio, which is gallery as well. And I just took time. I went through everything, and there's always a process of elimination that's quickly. And as artists know, artists in the room know, you find a theme for a show. You say, I think I can fit that theme, and you put something in that totally has nothing to do with the theme, because maybe you'll get away with it. So some of those are like the quick eliminations. But there was so much that could be sacred space that was very difficult because, as I said, sacred space could be anything. So even the ones who put work in that was sort of like, maybe I'll get this in, it was worth consideration. So again, I went into this place, I went on my computer and I looked at the work, and some was, like I said, easier to eliminate than others. And then there were the ones that I kept going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And eventually, you have to do what you have to do. You have to take hold of the assignment. The pen was very kind and patient with me. And I came up with these 25, I think there were actually 28, and then 25 folks actually submitted the work. So it was a painstaking process, and I apologize to people who did not make it into the show, but it's a small gallery. We could have had all the pieces in the show, but we had the arenas that we would like to have, but it wasn't that way. But I really was very, very, very intent on making sure that the pieces spoke to what I think a sacred space is, and allowed other people to express what they thought sacred space is.
And I imagine you could have even made a different selection, made a separate selection with kind of looking through a different lens.
A whole other show. Yes.
Same work.
Yes, exactly.
So, congratulations.
Thank you.
It's a feat.
Thank you for inviting me to do this.
Oh, we're happy to have you. So now that you see the work in real life on the walls, is there anything about them in relation to one another, or that you have new insights or discoveries about?
It was quite something to see the work on Thursday. It was really, I told my friend, a friend of mine came with me, and I went home so full. I mean, it's the first time being involved in an art show, whether curating or exhibiting, that I felt as full as I did, because I was seeing the answers to a question, and I was meeting the people behind the answers, and meeting all of the artists was just, first of all, they thanked me. They were so gracious to thank me, and I said, thank you for picking me. But then to see the work, and to put them with the work and the thank yous, I went home literally shaking. It was so beautiful to put the artists, the work, and the theme together. So I want to thank the artists who were in the show for your graciousness. And seeing the work in person is just, even now I just am so enthralled with how they work together. I mean, how each one answers the question fully and differently. So.
And it's very different seeing them in real life.
Absolutely.
The frame or without a frame, where sometimes even though you read the size, you picture it smaller or bigger.
Exactly.
And the media comes through differently, so.
Yeah, JPEGs are much different than something hanging on the wall.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
I know hanging it was very satisfying. My book
And you
was
did a
together.
beautiful job. You did a beautiful job hanging.
And there's a lot to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. So finally, I would like to share that the artists here today were suggested by Ramona, and I would like to know if you have anything to say about the selections that you made. So we have the one window, that's Jaime's. We have this is Melissa's, and right around the back of this wall is Hiroko's.
Okay, again, it was very difficult to choose the artist for the talk. So any artist in the audience, I apologize, but only could choose a certain one.
And no, it's not a meritocracy.
I would like to speak about Jaime's work. It was interesting because I looked at his website. He's really more of a graphic artist, graphic designer. So to see his work looking so painterly and so not like graphic design in the window here, it was just amazing to me. And I love the whole idea. I think it's called warm, or in a warm. Staying warm. What more safe space that there is than staying warm? Everybody wants to be warm in the winter, not in the summer, but in the winter we want to be warm. That's our safe space, or sacred space in the cold. So I love the fact that he answered the call and the theme, and I love the fact that his work is so different. You know, the fact that he has this beautiful painting, and if you see his website, everything else is very. So that's why I chose I want to talk about that a little bit. Melissa, I chose her because, first of all, let me confess, I was a dancer for many, many years. And when I saw her work, I said, oh. And I said, my God, you know, when you're a dancer, you're always navigating space, you know, choreography, formations, you know, different stages. So I felt that her work was another answer to sacred space. How do you navigate space? How do you make it sacred? Where does your foot touch? Where does your foot not touch? So that's one of the reasons and plus I'm a collage artist myself, so partial to collage artist. And then Hiroko, her work is so mystical and mysterious. Her work is on the other wall behind you. I wanted to hear what she had to say about the way she defines space and where people come from, where this world actually comes from, the beginnings of the galaxy, you know, where that is, because that's a whole other space that we know nothing about, really. So again, it's a sacred space because we don't know about it. You see, it's that thing, it's sacred space because we don't know anything about it, makes it sacred. It's a sacred space because we're navigating with bands, and it's a sacred space because we're feeling comfort. So that's, if you go around the room and you ask me on each of these pieces, I will tell you it's sacred because of different reasons.
Thank you. So I know you you all might have some questions, but we're going to hold the questions to the end till I finish asking questions of all artists, and then we'll ask for your questions as well. So we're going to move to Jaime. Jaime, congratulations on your inclusion in this remarkable show. Let's begin by asking, what did you think of the idea of sacred space, and why did you choose this piece to enter?
So sacred space, like already the title feels very sacred, like to that space. And for me, like I wanted to make it more intimate. And to me, like the intimacy of humans coming together, like a hug. Groups of people coming together, their bodies do create a space in their own that creates that warmth, hence the title of the piece. And so I just wanted to kind of like bring that sort of humanness to, or submit to that question, the humanness of what I think the space could be. And so that's why I kind of chose. And I submitted a few other pieces that also were had a lot of like figures in it. It was mostly about people almost verging and becoming a whole.
So you're thinking of a kind of intimacy.
Yeah, one.
Yeah. And so that leads me to my next question. Your piece conveys a sense of intimacy in both the subject and the way the materials are manipulated. Could you tell us if this is typical of your work and your approach to painting? And now we know that you also do graphic.
Right. So it's funny that you bring that up. So yeah, I am a graphic designer full time, but I also have a practice, which is painting, and I divide those two things holistically. Like I do graphic design, and then I just turn my computer off, and I just go and paint. With me, it is a very intimate practice. It is a very divide between like graphic design being very like just communication driven, and to me art being very personal. And so the practice that I'm sort of like trying to build as a painting practice is pretty much about say very intimate in that like it's my private space. It's very intimate because the stories that I'm trying to tell are very human and they're coming from a very personal space, which for me is being an immigrant or like being in this country trying to sort of find my belonging or maybe the lack of it. Because right now, as you mentioned, current events are trying to sort of move that sort of space, and so I try to communicate that through my work. So as you see it in the piece, just trying to communicate that in the materials and the approach, also this intimacy, the way I'm laying color, the way I'm sort of treating line to create textures, to create a story, to create a wholeness that tells a story, both again personal and material sense. So I'm trying to just push and pull in many layers, and I think there's a intimacy that I think you did that.
Yes. And well, first of all, I want to say that it's very courageous to work that way, and especially in this climate. So, bravo. I can also want to know more about the subject matter here. So I'm intrigued with the balance of like the specific representational elements, like the fingers almost touch. It is like tiny space between the fingers, in contrast with the more abstract elements, the different areas that makes it feel like there's more than meets the eye. Than this is alluding to something.
Yeah, my friend came to the show and she was like, "What are they doing with the fingers?" I don't know. It's up to you. Like finish the story. For me, it was staying warm. Maybe they're like holding their hands to stay warm. Maybe they're whispering. Maybe they're like lighting up a cigarette. But what you're picking up on is like the sort of tension between things that you could say, oh, that's a hand, that's a face, and then when you kind of step out, like zoom out, you see the whole thing. The shape starts to kind of become that human.
Right.
I'm being sort of playing with this idea of the decomposition of the human form, and then rearranging it again. So the story is not about like, oh, that's a person and they're doing this. It's about like there is a humanness to it, but I don't know what it is. And it's like you finish the story. Like I want the viewer almost to get close to the piece and see the layers, step out, and maybe see another story.
And you feel the moment, and then you feel the painting.
Yeah. And
so the painting has its own kind of language.
Totally. I think like that's what I've been trying to play in my most recent work. It's like that push and pull. And I think that tension, again, just to bring it back to the pieces, which is like belonging in the lap of it. There is a tension, like there's a multitude that I've sort of have embodied through my life as a university, living in different places, trying to sort of figure out like where I do belong, right? And I think there's a tension. There's a tension between that story and trying to like put that in the work and how the materials come to life and stories.
And it's nice to have a home for that tension in art.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Art without tension. And so it can keep feeding you. So that's beautiful. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
So we're going to move on to let's just move down the line. So Melissa, kudos to you too, Melissa.
Thank you.
Please tell us what sacred space means to you and why you chose this piece. So this is Melissa Kraft. Titled Infinite Possibilities. I'm sorry, I meant to say the title. So the title of this is Staying Warm. This is Infinite Possibilities.
A lot of times in my work, it's like back and forth between two opposites. So a safe space for me is either very solitary, me looking out the window, daydreaming with a book of poetry, or it's like really very full community. And outside of my art studio, my second love is being in a dance studio, and there's a lot of motion and dance and flying and leaping in my work, and it is, I mean, a dance studio can be scary, I admit, but it's also a space of great connection and community and love, and that's a sacred space to me.
So the subject here feels joyful, yet on closer inspection, the ambiguous forms below the leaping figures can feel a bit ominous. Can you tell us about your title and what's happening in this piece?
Yeah, so when I started making it, I started with a very gray and kind of dark, subdued colors in the background. And that's often how I start work. I start with a palette more than a specific idea of what I want to paint. So that day I was starting with grays and blacks and kind of off colors, and I work kind of in sequence. I have to wait for something to dry, and while I'm waiting for it to dry, I might do something else with those same colors. With this one, after I had all of those kind of dark, subdued colors, it made me feel like, you know how if you're having a bad day, like you want something, you want to take yourself out of it. So I wanted something to take myself out of that, and I was thinking about movement and dance, and so I was gonna leap over whatever those dark feelings were and the subdued kind of pulling me in. And then I started to add color and movement and leaping. And those things underneath, like those are, the obstacles that we all face, like political, work, relationship, whatever they are, on a daily, monthly, or just, in the cycles of our lives. And so the figures over that, like they found some color, they found some light, they found some movement, and they're gonna leap over it where the possibilities, in reality, they're not infinite, but I believe there's always a possibility for things, to make something better, to find something better, to do better, and that's what they're doing.
Very optimistic.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's wonderful. So your collage and mixed media here is effective and pretty seamless. Can you tell us about your technique and if this is typical of your practice? Can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah.
I'll start with the kind of background color.
It has become typical of the way I work because I like texture, and so I might start with paint and then add papers on top. It's not in this piece, but one thing I've been using a lot in my work these last few years is woven paper, where I'll paint the colors with the paper and collage that. In this, at the bottom, like on top of the sort of gray background on the bottom, there are like bright little sparkling things, and I think of those as my secret treasures. I like to collect little bright things, little sparkling things, little pieces of ribbon and rope and thread, and what I do to them is I leave them sitting in a bowl of water until they fall apart, and then I put them together like little sculptures, and I glue them with polyurethane, and then I collage those on top. So that's what I did with those, and then the other collage is just paper that I painted on top. But that is often the way I work. I like to combine the different elements together and get this answers.
Thank you. I think those sparklies are part of your opera. To Hiroko. So Hiroko's piece is called Galaxy, and I'm going to tell you what the media is too. Mineral pigment, which includes lapis lazuli and azurite, and mica bound by animal glue on indigo donkey paper mounted on a wood panel. Did I say those things right? Is it donkey paper?
Yeah, that's very traditional Japanese natural garlic paper.
Okay.
From plants.
Oh, okay, beautiful. So, congratulations to you, Hiroko. Maybe you guessed. I'm going to ask each person what sacred space means to them. So, why does this piece around the corner here represent sacred space to you?
Forgive me for reading the notes or better understand, sorry. I often wonder about the same thing the first human might have asked when they look at the stars. Why are we here? What are we? There are scientific questions that also deal with human development. I often think, how can we stand on the first spinning the Earth? And why do we float when we go into space? My work is the process of researching for answers to these questions. When I paint, I'm always aware of 4 dimensions, 3-dimensional space plus time. And one life-changing moment for me happened in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. I saw the sun in the west and the moon in the east, both the same time on the horizon. Growing up in Tokyo, I'd only seen the sun and the moon high in the sky. The moment made me realize Earth is really floating. I sparked my interest in space-time and gravity. The works in this exhibition is based on the Milky Way. We live much further from the center of the galactic disk, And in the summer, we can see inside the galaxy towards the center. This painting is it. To me, this mysterious space is sacred. It reminds us of deep question and maybe even the purity within ourselves and our society. That's why I think it.
Thank you. That's beautiful. So this piece feels magical and mysterious to me, and your materials are a mystery to me as well. I'd love to hear about how you use your materials, and if this is the way that you prefer to work.
I use traditional Japanese pigment made from minerals that took a million or a billion of years to form inside the earth. Therefore, that compress the time of our planet. And then when I use them to paint celestial bodies, it feels like I'm returning a mineral to its original universe. And these mineral in organic crystals, but they came from Earth's long evolutionary history, also the history of life, like mineral pigment history.
Right,
Human
even the
life.
cave pigment
Yeah.
is mineral pigments.
And I also use color from shells, coral, mica, and sometimes insects. These pigments have deep, to me, deep hidden meaning for me. For this work, I use paper made from plants, and the medium comes from animal blood, like from bones. Can you repeat that? Animal blood. Oh, okay. From animals from bones. So there is an ecosystem of the earth in this world in particular, which is directly connected to the universe. Also, I love to walk on site, go outside in the nature. And I traveled to many different places to paint what I see with my own eyes. 2 years ago, I went to the Atacama Desert in Chile, and then painted the night sky as I observed it at night. I used small light and
Mineral pigments
Many
at night?
what?
Were you using the mineral pigments at
Yeah,
night?
yes, very hot.
Very
big
hard.
Right?
Just the right temperature and viscosity. It's
Yeah,
very
actually,
difficult.
you know it very well because I went to the Yosemite National Park. At that time, it's very cold in winter time. So always I keep warm water and something. And in today's world, we are surrounded by endless, so much images, and this seems like a wreckage to me. So that's why I want to see and feel the real like nature things. In the on site in the field, I can hear the air, smell the window, talk to the people, and learn that the local history. Those encounters shape my emotion and they help me connect to time and the place through my work. So that's my style.
Yeah, so I think you kind of answered the last question I have. So, and I'm looking at it, I was saying to myself, these materials and the subject are all of a piece. And I had my own impressions, but I wanted to hear your thoughts about what the subject matter is for you. And hearing that you work from life, fascinating. So, yeah.
I believe we live in world full of contradictions and absurdities, but from the universe's point of view, we are just tiny, speck of dust, one part of the Earth's ecosystem. Everything we have today is connecting from the Big Bang. I often question also what value really means. Value. How much is value? So whether it's human and rock or animal tree or star, I think everything exists in the same way in this space and in the universe. This idea is close to ancient Japanese philosophy too. And I use the celestial body as motive, but I don't think what we see is always full story only of the Milky Way. There is a deeper network or the visible, invisible, the past and the present, constantly repeating. I'm very interested in how to translate that in a two-dimensional world. Our understanding of the universe has changed so much since Cézanne, when the famous Cézanne painted over 100 years ago. In Cézanne time, the world is, inside the painting only, inside the painting. I want the viewer, my painting, I want the viewer feel as if the space of my painting is expands up and down, left and right, back and forth, beyond the canvas, out of the door, and into space. In the Anthropocene age, this era where humans are changing the earth. I hope my work helps people imagine on cosmic scale to think about the environment, the value of things, and how we are not different from animal, plants, smoke, fire, and another form of
But I would encourage everyone to spend some time with this painting. At first, you think you know what you're looking at, and then you spend some more time with it, and you see so much more. So thank you, Hiroko. And now I want to open the floor to questions from our audience. And so you can have questions for anyone. That would be a question for me.
I can't tell you specifically everything about her because it's just too much to contain. But she's an artist who works in three dimensions. She said it's on wood. And she believes that, what did she say? She believes she's jumping alone. So, yeah. So a lot of her work is themed that way. So, yeah. That's that.
I would like to ask,
Question for you, Hiroko.
the material, the mica and the lapis lazuli, do you find that in nature? Also, have you found the materials in nature?
No, usually I'm always buy from the other stores. I don't grant anything by myself. Oh, that's much,
Because she finds it.
Oh, you find it? Oh, you like it?
I'll show you where to find it.
Oh,
And you, Brian, the materials?
Well, the mica slides Yeah, the other stones you would.
Yeah. Fascinating. Yes.
I have a question for Melissa, because I get the feeling that she sort of looks intuitively as a collage artist, and most of the shapes don't seem that drawn out and compared to more organic. So, and the dancers are so specifically and beautifully drawn. Like, how did that work when you decided? Did you make them so that they couldn't sit there, or did you think that we crossed?
Yeah, that's really interesting because usually what I like to do is whatever I want to use for collage, I always go for the color first. So I'll paint some paper and then I'll rip it up or I'll cut it up. And then I like to position it in different ways on the paper, canvas, or wood. And I like to just look at it all different ways before I decide. And that's what I did with those, the bottom little treasures. But with the dancers, I did like cut it specifically, and I wanted them to look like something in them was very, like, not perfect, but not haphazard either. I wanted your feet to be curved. I wanted them to be reaching. I wanted them to be different from the rest of the piece, which is more, rough. I didn't want them to be rough. I wanted them to be rising above the roughness and be clear.
It's very effective.
I think I made this comment before to you, but I love how these two paintings are juxtaposed with each other because yours has so much energy in it, and then this one is so restful. And it's like, oh, after you've gone through that whole day, this is what you want. And so whoever arranged this show did a really great job.
So, general comment, you said, mentioning, the ones to give the painting to spend more time with it. But I think all the artists here, the more you spend time with it, the more people talk about it. It's just like adds more to it. And,
Very true.
like in this day and age where people are just looking at the return pages like this, it's just like they're asking to all of us to spend more time and, looking and the language cat stories and
Yeah, it also was hard, takes time to make it. You all know that. It takes time. And, a lot of patience and concentration. It pays off.
It's really an antidote to our phones, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just wanted to mention that we used to do something, I don't know if it still goes on, but slow art day. Slow art day. And people would come by, they would visit different galleries, and they would come to us, and they'd have to spend, I think it was 5 minutes looking at the work. And 5 minutes looking at the work is a very long time.
Silent.
Silently, and just really spend time with that work, really, notice everything, really just kind of live in that space for a while. And I did it, and it was fascinating because I like to think that I really look at work when I go to museums or galleries, but spending 5 minutes with work is fascinating because you see things like you were mentioning, to spend time to grow those work, you see things, they sort of unfold, and that's really what happened to me, so we gave everybody should give 5 minutes to the work. So
To your favorite piece.
Yes.
Should be a word. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, that I
warmth and intimacy came across immediately for me. But it's icy, it's blue, it's angular, a lot of aspects of the painting are cool and not warm, but it still conveys that warmth and intimacy. So I just wondered if you could talk a little bit more about how you chose the colors and the sort of angularity of the forms.
Yeah, it's a great observation because there's a contrast.
Right.
What you like calling that is the contrast between the shape, the forms, telling the story of intimacy. But everything else was very cold, very sharp, almost. Like the forms are sharp. Like if you look at like the way the body is towards the outer areas of the piece, that's kind of got a little more sharp, a little more harsh in a sense. To me, it reflects this idea that the world sometimes can be, you're optimistic, but the world sometimes can be very harsh, very cold, very sharp, and that sometimes we as humans, we might inherit that at times, whether we like it or not. We have to always try to kind of like roots come together and find that intimacy, find that connection with the human, with other people. That to me is what I keep saying, like it's a humanness to the piece, even though you're saying that it's cold. And sure, like I picked blue pigments and like the linear texture being very black, very heavy. There is because I want to kind of create a contrast. That's something really cool. But yeah, you feel kind of like that harshness, that coldness, but there's still the forms are trying to say. So, thank you for the question.
So Ramona chose the works, and then they arrive here. Karen is in a committee that decides what work goes where. Could you talk a little bit about the process of how you decided which works were to go where?
Yes, I would like to know that too. They didn't have to come in and say, okay, they did a beautiful job.
We're happy to do that because we're a committee from the gallery. We hang all the shows, so we're very practiced in trying to make sure that every piece is shown to its best advantage. So we unwrap all the work, make sure that we have it all, we have our checklist, and sometimes we have to save a spot for a place, for a piece, and that can be tricky because, it's hard to imagine once, not digital, how it'll fit in. And then I think our secret sauce is that we're not afraid to rearrange things if we need to. So sometimes we have differences of opinion, let's say, and we work it out. But to your point, John, that gives us the opportunity to kind of defend why we wanted one piece next to another, or why we think something should be moved, and we're basically trying to just give each piece its best advantage in space. Yeah.
Can I just follow? And so you're looking at the colors that work together, subject matter, what goes into that calculation?
All the above. So, we're looking at color, we're looking at subject, we're looking at kind of textures too, like, we don't want all the same kind of thing together because then you'll tend to like gloss over it. So, but we also want them to have a conversation with each other. So we might, like for instance, this piece has the wonderful shapes of the rocks that kind of echo the shapes of the wrought iron in that piece. And then there's a figure and a figure, but they're wildly different approaches. So they're not competing with each other, but they're having a conversation. And that's what I like. Any other questions?
Ramona, I want to ask you
Okay.
that in terms of your own work as practicing artist and your work as curator. So I imagine you seeing all this work and you make the choices and see the show. I'm just wondering,
that sort of relationship and how maybe curation feeds your art practice, or how that works for you?
Well,
Relationship.
it's challenging to curate and also create. You know, because sometimes it takes away, you know, I work at university and 3-4 shows a year. We're constantly, you know, curating shows or assisting curators to put on shows at the college. And I find when I get home so full of art, because you know, your own art, are you crazy? But it's a challenge, but I am able to create while I do the administrative part of work.
How just sort of how it influences each other, maybe.
It doesn't really influence, my curation doesn't influence my creation. Everything that I create is really separate from what I curate, because a lot of curation is, for me, it's sort of a discovery. It's not my work, it's a discovery of other works. So it doesn't really influence my work. It's sort of, oh, this is good, this is wonderful. But it doesn't really influence my own work, my creation. If that answers the question, or go deeper into that.
Well, no, also, I mean, your point of view as an artist, and does it influence your curation? I mean, in terms of the sort of background?
Well, I'll tell you this, and anybody knows what Sankofa is? Sankofa is going forward while looking back. My work is a lot of Sankofa, where I talk about my growing up in Brooklyn. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, so a lot of my work is based on that theme. I was a dancer for a while, so a lot of my work is based on the dance theme and my Caribbean heritage. So my work is really based on Sankofa, what is my past and how I go forward with that. So a lot of times, Damali has shown with me, and John has shown as well, Joseph's. And so a lot of the time when I choose artists, I might choose an artist who, a curator who, actually, no, I think when I curated St. Joseph's, I talked about that, when I did a show once called Ancestral Articulations, that was all about St. but I curated that show. When I choose someone to curate a show, Joanne curated the show, the mom was in that show. It's up to the curator to choose their own themes and topic. But when I curate, I usually look to Sankofa, because I really believe that our past is so important, and we see it happening now. We see that people didn't pay attention, and look what's happening. So we have to pay attention. It's not about going backward. If you know the Sankofa, which is a dangerous symbol in Ghana, it's a symbol of a bird with the feet facing forward, but the head is facing back. So it's not that you're stopping yourself, you're going forward, but you're aware of your past. That's my work. When I curate based on Sankofa. So that answers your question. That goes, yes. Thank you. Okay. It's
Allow a second question. Yes. You've been directing at St. Joseph's for how many years?
a long time.
A long time.
Yes, since 2009.
Right, so a long time. I'm just fascinated with your experience there. Can you talk about like what you've? It's a big question, but take it anywhere you want. Your lessons learned, reflections on like the role of art maybe in the world, how you get people in the gallery, anywhere you want to go with that.
Well, I'm going to go back to a question that the point you made about looking at artwork for 5 minutes. When you work in a university, my role is to expose the students mostly to art, of professional artists, and the college community, and we open it to the public, so anybody can come to the show. But the challenge of getting students to stop and to look at artwork. Now we always have the grades of freshmen. The grades of freshmen. The students will come say, can I have a sample? And then you pick up a sample, you just go around the room, pick one piece of art, and come back and tell me something about it. And they always come back to me and tell me more than I expected. They tell me, they ask me questions about what is it made of. I remember one student one time, I don't know if the artist, she does it in plastic, what's made of. She's come up in Asian. But she had, she did a series of skateboards and plastic. And she included, I don't know if you call them the little pieces that came out of the computer. I didn't notice it because she didn't really name it in her description. But a student came back and said, oh, I saw this, yes, that's what I want. So in terms of lessons learned, it's about getting young people people to look at art. And whether I said, whether you like it or you don't like it, just come back and tell me about it. And lots of times they didn't like the work, they didn't understand the work, but the fact is they looked at the work. And to me, that's a big accomplishment. The challenge working in college is also that it's there for the college to see and enjoy, but they don't really take advantage of it. My biggest audience is the people from the neighborhood or people who come from places. That's the biggest audience. So it's okay, I'll take it. And I'm constantly struggling and trying to get students and the faculty and staff to come in and take a look. We have a beautiful little gallery, and the work is always very beautiful. We have wonderful artists who show, but college is the biggest challenge. But they like me, they keep me so I must be doing something right. Does that answer your question, John?
Yes.
Thank you all. I want to make a few announcements. Our next show is unusual in several ways. One, that we're usually closed in August, but we decided to be open for on cardboard, which is cardboard work by member artists. So, when's that opening?
The 9th.
August 9th is opening, please join us. And then in September, we have Susie Reed, the title of your, that's right,
It is in light of everything. I should know that.
yeah. And that's up from September 4th to October 5th. That'll be starting our season. So come to the reception September 6th, it's a Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. And our Stock for Susan show will be Sunday, September